In this video, I'm going to talk about the genitive relationships, and specifically these last two. The difference between subjective and objective is difficult to understand. So genitive is just of plus a noun. So here, I have examples here: heart of gold, friend of God, etc. And the first, you can see that there's two main categories. There's adjectival and verbal. Adjectival just means that the genitive is modifying a noun. So of gold here is the genitive, and it's modifying heart, which is a noun. Heart of gold. And we have of God here is the second genitive, and it's modifying friend, which is a noun. Friend of God. Verbal, it's still modifying a noun, but it is a noun that has a verbal idea that is encoded into it. So think of words like love and faith, where they're both nouns. Love is a noun, but love is also a verbal idea. We can think of us loving as a verb, or us believing as faith. So this is where subjective and objective come in. So because there's a verbal idea in these nouns, we have to think, is the genitive modifying them the subject of the verb or the object of the verb? Subject meaning it's doing the action, and object means that it is the object of the action. It is what is being done. So here I have two examples where scholars debate of whether these are objective or subjective genitives. So the first one here, Romans 5:5, says, "And hope maketh us not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost which is given unto us." So here we have love of God. Of God is the genitive, and it's modifying love. So now we have to ask, we know that love is a verbal noun idea, so we're here in the verbal genitive category. So now we have to ask, is God the subject or the object of the verbal idea in love? Is God loving? Is he the subject of loving? What is loving? Or is he the object? Is it us loving God? God is the object of our love. And so the debate surrounds here is that the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts. So it's us loving God since it's in our hearts. Or is it talking about God's love for us, since the next 5 or so verses all talk about God commendeth his love for us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, and so on. A second verbal genitive here is in Romans 3:22, where it says, "Even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, upon all, or unto all, and upon all them that believe." So here we have faith, which is a verbal noun. We can think of the idea of believing. And so we need to ask, is Jesus Christ the subject of the faith? Is Jesus believing or being faithful? Or is it Jesus is the object of the faith? It's us believing in Jesus. And so the debate surrounds, most of the time, when there is a personal genitive following faith, like we have up here in Romans 3:3. And it says, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect?" It's obvious that it's not our faith in God, but it is God's faithfulness that is in question. Is God's faithfulness without effect? So here's an example of a personal genitive attached to faith and a verbal noun, and God is the subject of, God is the one being faithful. Others say that the faith is rarely attached to Jesus. Jesus is never really described as someone who believes, but we are often the ones categorized as those who believe. So that's just kind of the verbal genitive, the difference between subjective and objective, whether the genitive is the subject of the action or the object, has interpretive uh, results and meaning in it.